Building a business is like growing a tree. You can't just throw seeds into the dirt and hope for the best. Every element of climate to daily care plays a crucial role in whether or not your efforts thrive or wither. This framework is my theory of business all in one place, drawn from agricultural, specifically permaculture frameworks and principles that I believe will help us all build sustainable, holistic, supportive businesses that actually give back 10 times, 100 times what we put into it, instead of draining us and our bank accounts for years and years and years and not ever actually growing into anything. So there are 5 core elements of permaculture that I have mapped to the 5 core elements of business, and we're going to go over each of those one by one. The first core element of anything is the foundation. In permaculture, that would be your climate or your microclimate, and in business, that is your value creation. No garden or business exists in a vacuum. You're within the context of your larger environment. In agriculture, the climate dictates what kind of plants you can grow, how you can grow them, what time of year you can grow them. Even if you're defying nature and growing flowers in a greenhouse during winter, you're still having to adjust to the dictates of the environment. You have to grow them in a greenhouse or they will die. So the climate still controls what you can and can't do. Climate is the all-encompassing environment that includes what hemisphere you're in, what continent you're on, the longitude and latitude of your specific location, which controls your growing zone, large landscape features like deserts or mountains or lakes or rivers or other bodies of water, your relation to them and which direction the wind is coming from, your annual weather patterns. All of those things are the large-scale context that you're growing your garden in. So that's like the bones of the framework, but then your specific microclimate affects your individual garden on an even more intimate level. So your particular piece of land where your garden is might be in the lee of the mountain and get less rain. It might be on a peninsula between an ocean and a gulf and get more rain, or it might be on top of the county's only sand deposit. So no matter how much rain you get, it drains away as soon as possible, and you can't ever seem to keep things watered. For urban gardeners, it depends on what buildings are around, how tall the buildings are, city ordinances for whether you can grow in pots or in the soil, that kind of thing. When you're planning to plant a garden, agriculturalists almost always start with the larger climate in mind, at least subconsciously, because if you've lived for any length of time in the place where you already kind of know when seasons are and when the rain patterns are and when the winter comes and when the spring comes. But when people start a business, generally they don't do as deep of a dive into the climate of their market as a whole. The idea usually comes based around a specific problem and or a specific group of people, and that's more of a microclimate consideration. If the business gets bigger, then you would consider the broader scope of your climate. But if you're intending to grow a cottage industry business, which is work from home, maybe you have a team of 2 to 10 people, but you're never going to grow to hundreds of employees and ginormous office buildings. Like, you don't want to go into all of that, which is perfectly legitimate. And that is the kind of business that Avocado Entrepreneur is here to serve, the small cottage industry business that just wants to make a good living for yourself and your family and do good work. And like, that's it. Like, you don't need to make $1 billion and be the Fortune 500, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to have the financial freedom and the time freedom to live a good life. And in order to do that, we need to have our own business. So we need to make money, but the making of the money can't be taking up all of our time and energy, because we want to also live our lives to do other things. So if you are working on building a cottage industry business, you probably will never need to worry too much about your overarching climate. The microclimate consideration controls everything from your marketing to your delivery methods. So it's very important to understand your microclimate and the larger climate of your nation's specific economy and the world economy. All of those things are kind of like in the back of your head, but you don't need to think about them too much and worry about how they apply to your business, because you'll know. It doesn't take that much research and stress. So the microclimate is the context in which you create values for your business. That includes the problem that you solve, the people that you're solving it for, how you solve it, and the other businesses that are solving it and or similar problems. Now, working with your microclimate is the key to a successful business. So understanding those 4 things is the key to this first foundational step of understanding your climate, your microclimate, and your value creation. So in order to make the most of your microclimate, you might consider working through, there's 5 bazillion different exercises for creating an elevator pitch of what you do to like really distill the solution that you're offering, what it is that you do, who it is that you help. You might consider creating a mission statement for your business. You might think through and actually write out your backstory of why this matters to you and why you want to help these people and why you want to solve this problem. There's also 5 bazillion avatar exercises for your ideal client profile, which I've heard people call an ICP. Your ideal client, your ideal customer, your avatar. Anyway, there's a bunch of different terms for the people that you help. But whatever you want to call it, go through different exercises to help you understand them better. I feel like cottage industry online businesses are kind of based around helping other people like yourself. So maybe it's even just sitting down and writing out who you are, who you would be in a demographic profile. So that would include your demographics, but it would also include your psychographics or psychological profiles. So this is stuff like specific values that you hold, specific belief systems, specific causes that you support or causes that you definitely do not support, things that you love, things that you hate. I have an evergreen client worksheet on this as well. You might want to create a vision statement for how you want to work-life balance, how much time you want to spend on your business, how involved you want to be with your clients, whether you want to be on a live working with them sort of situation, or if you want everything to be async and there's no pressure to show up at any specific time. You might want to create a heck no list of things you would never be interested in offering, or situations that you would never be okay with. So for example, I really hate talking on the phone, so I never want to create an offer or agree to work with a client where I would need to be on the phone all the time. So, consider who you are, because that's part of your microclimate when it comes to how you're presenting your business. The things that you like, the things that you want, the things that you will not put up with. All of that stuff is very important for understanding how you're going to create your business to meet those needs. You can also create a brief business plan, but be forewarned that almost all exercises online about business plans have more to do with getting funding from a bank or an investor than they do from actually writing out what it is that you plan to do and how you plan to go about doing it. So maybe I will create something for online entrepreneurs, because most of the time our business plans are not going to get us funding, but we don't need funding, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so this area, the foundational area of permaculture for your business, should take less than 1% of your time. You're going to want to review these things every so often, every couple of years, 3 to 5 years maybe, or every 10 years, depending on how much longer you're going to be working on this project. And you want this to be like your North Star, your true south, as I call it, because I'm from the South, so I prefer my true South. And you're going to make sure that everything that you're doing is in line with this vision for what you want to do and how you want to do it. But redoing this over and over again is not very helpful. It's very easy to get caught up in redoing it and refining it and taking new courses and doing new exercises about it, because it is the foundational stuff. And so it is important to get it right. But there comes a time when you're just nitpicking and it's not really meaningfully changing the goal at all. And so it's best to kind of back of the napkin, write it out, get an idea of where you're going, and then actually start trying to go there. And then you'll have a much better idea of what you need to adjust in your plan, if anything, versus trying to make it all perfect first before you get started. So do review it every so often, but don't worry too much about making it perfect, because this is more of a general, I want to go this direction versus I'm going to end up in this exact location and here's all the steps I'm going to take to get there. That's impossible for us to know this far ahead of time. So don't wear yourself out trying to figure it out. The second phase and the second step of your permaculture business solution is preparation. So when you're preparing to put in a garden, you want to actually plan what it is that you're wanting to build. So planning in permaculture equals your finance and your admin systems of your business on the back end. So why even work to create a business that is self-sustaining? Because we know intuitively that everything that we should do should have some benefit. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it. Most things that we do don't directly translate into monetary terms, but business is one area where it actually does usually translate into monetary terms. And so it's super easy to tell if you're getting anything out of it. If you are not making any money, then it's not a business. It's a hobby or it's a charity. If you're spending and your earnings cancel each other out, you're just breaking even, then it's unsustainable and it's unprofitable. You're not going to be able to run this way for very long. You need to make a profit for it to be a sustainable business. So in your business, money is like water for your garden. If you don't have water, your garden will die. If you don't have money, your business will die. Most people ignore the money until it's a problem, and they wait until they feel stressed and they feel pinched and they feel in over their head. But usually by that point, they're too busy running the business and getting the clients and converting and doing the sales calls and doing the fulfillment and like all of the day-to-day stuff. They're too busy running that to step back and take a look at why it feels so stressful. So the most important thing is to consider, where is the water going to come from? Where is the money going to come from? And where is it going to go within your business? This is why I think that the most important thing to plan when you're planning all of the things is your money system. Everything else is way sexier. I like planning my content. I like designing my logos. I like doing a whole bunch of calendars and color coding spreadsheets and working on my website. But having the money system set up so you know when money comes in, where is it going to go? Where is it going to flow? What is it going to touch? What do I need it to do? Where do I need it to go? How am I going to take money out? And how is it going to recirculate? Because water recirculates, money recirculates. This is the most important thing when you're building and designing a solution for a permaculture solution or for a business solution. Without a solid system for charging, collecting, and allocating money, your business is not going to survive. So setting up your money system should really only happen once, right at the beginning. And then you're going to review the system itself annually, and you're going to do the maintenance and upkeep of bookkeeping and accounting at least monthly. And the bigger your business gets and the more money's going through it, the more often you'll need to do that. So at least monthly, eventually weekly, and then eventually daily. And by the time you get to weekly, you probably are making enough to hire someone to help you with that. So this money water system should take about 2% of your time, more or less. Setting up the system is something you do once, and then you review and tweak and diagnose any issues annually, and regular maintenance falls in the conservation category. The third stage is ideation. So this is where you look at all of the features of your land when you're designing a garden, and when you are looking at how you're going to deliver the value, how you're going to solve the solution that you identified during your foundations phase. So permaculture is by definition meant to be permanent. And instead of planting monocultures that change every season and that require massive amounts of water and fertilizer, with permaculture, you're going to work with your land to design a mini ecosystem that creates and sustains its own elements with as little input as possible. Each system has inputs and then create outputs, and those outputs become inputs for the next system. So you want those to trickle down and then recirculate back to the beginning. So it's a closed loop system. So rather than clearing the land and starting from scratch, you're going to take stock of those natural resources and features that are already there. So these are things like, where are the big trees? Where are the big rocks? Are there any hills? Are there any elevation changes? Are there any low points where water naturally collects? Any actual bodies of water like creeks or ponds? What areas get direct sun versus partial sun versus shade? Which direction is the sun going on your land? Which direction does the wind typically go in different seasons? And points of access for wildlife, because if you live in an area where deer come and eat your vegetables, you need to know which direction they're coming from. So these bones of your land won't change unless something cataclysmic happens, God forbid an earthquake or a mudslide or tornado. So the core of your business should be a constant landmark. So these are the things like the mission that you identified in your foundation phase, the type of problem that you solve, your main audience demographic, and your theory or approach to solving it. So those things should stay constant. Everything that you offer in how you deliver your value should be aligned with that core landmark. So, for example, a business that provides glass shower doors probably isn't going to add a line of perfumes to their offer. And if you're working with underprivileged youth in the inner city, you're going to have to drastically change your messaging to attract upper middle-aged billionaires. And the offers that you present to each would be vastly different. So when you're laying out the bones of your business, you want to consider the permanent features of your business landscape. And that is your meta niche, whether you're in health, wealth, relationships, or self-development, or a combination thereof, because a lot of things, especially holistic solutions, touch on multiple, if not all, of them at different points in time. You want to consider the overarching problem that you solve and your solution to it, or your theory of solving it. So for Avocado Entrepreneur, the problem that I'm trying to solve is very mechanical systems of business, and seeing business as a war or a battle or a machine, and seeing people as cogs in the machine. I see that as a detrimental system of thinking about business. And so my solution is an agricultural system of thinking about business, an organic, natural, sustainable, holistic permaculture solution to thinking about business. We also want to consider who you help. This would be your evergreen client. So typically who you help is going to stay more or less the same. I typically help women entrepreneurs, and sometimes I have men who resonate with what I say, but I generally resonate more with women. So I'm probably not going to start helping troubled male teenagers. Like they're not going to jive with my mission or my solution. The general category of your solution. So this would be like, is it a commodity? Is it a specialty service? Are you providing education? Are you organizing an experience? Are you doing edutainment, which is like educational entertainment? Your skills, time, energy, and effort, your existing personal and professional networks, and your competitors, which again, in a organic permaculture approach to business, your competitors don't have as big of an impact as they do if you're thinking of it as a competition or as a machine that has something else trying to take the share away from you. In an organic belief system about business, there's always more. It's always producing more. There is no finite amount of resources that people can take away from you. You are creating more resources as you build and as you grow, and your competitors are adding inputs to the system for you to then take into your system. Your companion planters are very important because these are the businesses that are serving the same core audience that you are, but they're serving an adjacent problem. So they're helping you provide a more complete solution to your audience that you're serving. Now, this area of ideation, of making sure that you're delivering value to the right people in the right way, this should take around 5% of your time. You want to review this quarterly, who you're helping, how you're helping. You want to audit your time, energy, and effort, and your companion planters biannually. The fourth phase is productization. So we've taken our foundations, we know our climate and our microclimate, we have our admin and finance systems all set up, we know where stuff's gonna go once it comes in, and we have taken stock of the lay of the land. We know who we are as people and what we want to do in our business and who we want to help. Now we're going to actually talk about the plants themselves, i.e. the products and services and sales and marketing that you're going to do to actually grow all of this. If value delivery is what you do, products and services are how you do it. So you can sell the same product for 10 years and you can introduce something new every season. You should have a mix of both long-term and short-term offers to keep your garden fresh and vibrant. So perennials are plants that grow and mature over several years, like trees, woody shrubs like blackberries and blueberries, hardy herbs, vines, bulbs, anything that's going to grow over multiple years of growing. Sometimes they can be rather short-lived, 2 to 3 years, or like trees, they might live hundreds of years. So this is a very broad category. Annuals are plants that grow and mature over 1 year. So most vegetables fit into this category. Root veggies like potatoes and carrots, all green, leafy green vegetables, legumes, herbs, some fruits, most flowers are annuals. They have to be seeded every year. A good permaculture design is going to combine both perennials and annuals. So we want to combine them in a way that's going to maximize resource retention and create a closed loop system that requires very little input. So in your business, you're going to want to offer different kinds of products at different times, combine them with different services, bundle them in multiple configurations. And when we're thinking about having something trickle down, the idea of maximizing your lifetime value of each individual customer, this is the idea of the value ladder. So you're getting them in on maybe a tripwire product of $7, $10, whatever, and then you're selling them a larger package or a larger course or a bigger service, or they're upgrading their services because they have grown and now they need more help. So as you're growing them up, you're taking advantage of the fact that they're already in your system. You're encouraging that closed loop system where they go back around again. So for info product businesses, your flagship program is probably a perennial. This will probably change very little over the years. It's going to be the same core content. Maybe you package it differently. Maybe you put it into a different membership software, but the actual content that you're teaching is going to stay more or less the same. So that would be a perennial. And then you might have mini courses or free resources or webinar trainings. And these things might get updated every year or so. You might combine them in different ways. You might offer this particular configuration one season, and then you might change it to a different configuration the next season. And so those different configurations would be like annuals. For a small batch product business, your core product will mostly stay the same, and then the designs will probably change with the seasons, or you might do flash sales at specific holidays. If you introduce a new kind of product, you would then add another perennial to your ecosystem. So if you're creating small batch candles, that's one product line, is one perennial. And then if you add small batch, let's say body butter, then that would be another perennial. Then you can have different flavors and things that are coming out in the different seasons, but the core product line and the core production systems are going to stay the same. For service providers, you're probably going to have a core service that you provide across the board all the time. That's your perennial, but you might rearrange your contract links. You might offer different service packages. You might do a seasonal blitz. So for example, as an accountant, I do monthly bookkeeping and accounting. So that's my perennial service. Everybody needs bookkeeping and accounting all the time. But tax season is a once a year annual thing. So that would be like an annual offer that I would do, a tax season special. Now, if you have only one or two little things going right now, you're going to want to work on your perennial first, because your perennial is going to take time to grow and mature, and then you can add in the annuals as you go. If you already have 2 or 3 perennial offers and you already have multiple annuals that you can pull from and combine in different ways, then you're going to have the resources to experiment with combining all of the other products and services in a way that maybe you hadn't before, and come up with even more annual options. Now, this element includes things like your website, your sales funnels, your marketing strategy, your content strategy, your product delivery. So whether that's your membership platform, your email list, your client list, how you handle actual delivering your services. This is a very big element that incorporates a lot of things. So this element is going to take 25 to 40% of your time, and you should audit your existing products quarterly and then consider creating new products maybe once a year for the bigger perennial things. Well, creating a new perennial is probably a year-long project, so you shouldn't create more than one per year, but you can create annual things like mini workshops or mini courses. Those things can probably be done quarterly, so you can add new things to your lineup that way. This is going to take 25 to 40% of your time, because this is a lot of the actual doing of business, creating the products and services, and then also marketing and selling the products and services. But it shouldn't take all of your time, because you do need to actually fulfill and do all of the ongoing maintenance things. So the 5th phase is conservation, and this is ongoing maintenance in both permaculture and in business. There are some things that just have to be done on a regular basis, or else everything falls apart. So you're going to have to water your garden, you're going to have to weed, you're going to have to harvest the fruit that it's producing, or else it will stop producing. And for us business people, they can look different, but the core tasks usually involve something like content creation, bookkeeping or record keeping, marketing, posting, emailing, delivering your services, delivering your product. If you're doing a group thing, you're going to have those daily or weekly calls. So the actual doing, the ongoing maintenance, is probably taking up the vast majority of your time, 75 to 80% of your time. But the more time you spend here, the more you'll feel stressed. So it's important to make sure that whatever you have to do on a regular basis has a process and a system that will streamline it as much as possible. So some things you can automate, and I'm all for automating. Some things you do need to do yourself and have those touch points where you're keeping an eye on stuff. But I am all about creating SOPs where you write down the list of tasks that you have to do. So that way, when you're not in the mood and you don't feel like it and you can't remember how, then you can just pull up the SOP and go through the checklist, and you don't have to recreate the process every single time. You can just update that SOP as you go. So that way, the next time you remember, it was easier when I did it this way. So this element of ongoing maintenance is the key to growing a business that sustains you. If you are running around like a chicken with its head cut off, reacting to everything, living in the quadrant of not important but urgent, and you're trying to get things created right before you need them, you're always going to feel behind and stressed because your margin of error is very small. So the goal with this area of business, with conservation and ongoing maintenance, is to get these processes under control, so that way you'll be able to work less time and or spend more time on stuff that is more foundational, the things that are important but not urgent. And this is the key to doing what you want but you don't need to do. So you want to create rituals, you want to create SOPs, you want to create processes and systems and automate what you can. I do recommend doing things yourself for a little while first, even if you know already how to automate it. When you're first starting something out, it's important to do it yourself in order to really understand the process and how it applies to you, your business, and your customers. And then once you have the process down where you're repeating the same tasks over and over again, then you can automate it based on that actual workflow versus something that maybe someone else has told you should do. What you actually need is always more important than what someone else tells you should do. The health and longevity of your business depends not on hustle or luck, but on thoughtful design and consistent stewardship. When you treat your business like a living ecosystem, you set yourself up for sustainable success. If you are ready to grow your business the sustainable way, I invite you to check out the Avocado Entrepreneur Resource Library, where I have workbooks, cheat sheets, and checklists already set up for you to help you make things as easy as possible to grow and sustainify your business. And these are all available for free in the Avocado Entrepreneur Resource Library. I hope you check that out, and I will see you next time. Bye.